specific attention to the diversity-related issues. First, I want to thank each of the students that are here for taking time to travel to this meeting. We're here with the Board of Regents here in UW Green Bay, and we know that you juggle a lot of demands, particularly at this time of year. I imagine you're getting ready for finals at this point, and there's a variety of things you're dealing with. So we very much thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and join us here. Holding this conversation with students from campuses provides the Board of Regents with a perspective that few of us have and helps us to shape system policies that support student achievement. It's very important for us to hear about the lives and experiences lived by the students of color on our UW campuses. We ask that you share with us specific examples of both your positive experiences as well as the instances where you believe you've experienced negative treatment because of your racial or ethnic status or because of your sexual orientation. Our challenge and opportunity now and in the future is to convert what we learn through these interactions into constructive changes and transformations that will help enable each of our campuses to adopt practices that have a positive impact on campus culture and climate. Again, thank you for your persistence and courage in helping us improve the educational experience for all of our students, and particularly for our students of color who have faced different challenges in the years at the UW institutions. Let me first review a bit about the steps we're taking here before we open the floor to the students. Campus efforts to engage students in conversation are and have been ongoing. Today, the students joining us are taking up on an invite through the Chancellor's Office, working with student government through shared governance, to identify students familiar with recent campus-sponsored events related to campus climate. Now, you represent some of the first campuses to have done this. We realize that there are other campuses, and we really want you to understand, everyone to understand, that this is a first step. Actually, it's not a first step. We've been taking steps all the way along. This is a benchmark step. To prepare for this panel, we asked students to share their insights on those recent campus-sponsored events, to consider their personal perspective on their campus climate, and to consider what offices, support system, or programs on campus they have found to be effective or helpful. Later today, we look forward to continuing our conversation at a special luncheon we have organized with our panel and additional invited students. We will also have an announcement later today. We are also pleased to welcome Selena Deer, who is a freshman here at UW Green Bay, who will share with us a poetry reading at the culmination of the panel discussion. So with that, we're going to welcome our student guests, and let me ask that the Regents consider holding any questions or comments until we've heard from everyone who's joining us today. We have students on the panel from UW Green Bay, UW Madison, UW Parkside, UW Stout, and UW Whitewater. Unfortunately, a schedule complication has complicated the arrival of a student from UW La Crosse. We're going to start with UW Green Bay since you are our host campus, and I would ask that each one of you begin by giving your name and telling us what your hometown is. I always do this whenever I meet students because it kind of helps all of us understand and be familiar with you a little better. We want to know your major or your career objective, and we'd like to know what your year in school is. That all helps us better understand you. So let's start with our student from UW Green Bay. Welcome.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Asti Martin. I am a senior here at UW Green Bay. My major is democracy and justice studies, and I'm minoring in political science and public administration. I'm from Racine, Wisconsin originally. I'm honored to be here. I am sitting on the Chancellor's Inclusive Excellence Committee this semester as the Chancellor's Inclusive Excellence intern, and we are working on a few issues that deal with diversity, not only with multicultural students, but also LGBTQ plus students, as well as students with disabilities. We are also working on things in our multicultural offices, such as race panels and discussions on like Black Lives Matter movements, and we're having successful turnouts from those. And we've seen a lot of faculty members and staff members come to those, and we're also trying to get more faculty and staff educated on those issues, and it would really be helpful if we had more faculty and staff that actually represented us in our university.
Do you want to share with us a little bit about some of your experiences?
Yes. It's very difficult being here sometimes because I'm from such a diverse area. Being the only student of color sometimes is difficult in finding resources, such as in our community, resources of where to get like hair done, where you can get food, things like that. Some of those things are very difficult. Also, being judged and stereotyped, because I've had people tell me they were like I was the first Black person that they've met and that they've actually talked to, and they've come from hometowns with one Black family, so there was a lot of stereotypes that we're trying to clear up, and being targeted by campus police for just because of the color of my skin. So some of those things impact your education as well. Kind of makes you feel bad and not want to continue at the university, but having supportive staff and friends to be there to help you and talk you through that can really help, especially if they're staff members and faculty and friends that represent you, because they've been through some of the same things. I was talking to some of the other panelists about some of their experiences on their campuses as well, and they've been through some of the same issues that I've been through, just being targeted in class, about racial issues, all of that stuff that comes into play and really impacts your education.
Thank you, Asti. All right, Miriam Coker is from UW-Madison. Miriam.
Hello, my name is Miriam. I am from Prince George's County, Maryland, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C. I double major in social welfare and English creative writing, and I'm a sophomore. So this year, first I want to say thank you for allowing me to sit on this panel. This is truly an honor. So this year I was given the honor to be the Equity and Inclusion Committee Chair of ASM. So that basically means that I'm in charge of basically all things related to diversity and inclusion when it comes to student life. So you can kind of imagine how much pressure that is, because usually it's people just like, oh, hidden bias, something happened. Okay, Miriam's your job. So that's been quite fun. So that has a blessing and a burden, because it is a blessing because I hear so many people's stories, and that I am able to like direct them to places and like provide them resources, like people to talk to. But also it's a burden because I am literally in the middle of everything that happens. And if you own a TV or read the newspaper or on the computer, you could probably imagine the types of things that happen on UW. And I'm here to share my story and other people's stories. So just some things that has happened. The truth is that my mentee was spit in the face by someone who lives on her floor because she is Black. The truth is that for over a month, when I was walking home, someone yelled "Ayo ISIS" at me every day, and so much so that now I have to take the long way home. The truth is that it costs $6 to get a package of strawberries, and that's ridiculously expensive. And the truth is that someone thought it was funny to post up pictures of Hitler and swastikas on a Jewish person's floor, and that person is still living on the same floor. The truth is, there's just so many truths, and there's just so many like bad things happening, and I could list them from this list that I have, but the issue is that we are not seeing people's humanity, and that's why these things are happening, and that these occurrences are not seen as issues, or they're not being taken as priority, and that's why they're not being fixed. Because if they were priority, they will be fixed, and they should be priority because this affects everyone. Like, we are, like, by letting these things happen, we are brooding like a campus climate of like intolerance and hate and racism and misogyny, and that should not be okay. just simply. And like, even though that like these issues directly impact marginalized students, like these should be like, even though these issues directly impact marginalized students, it indirectly impacts all of campus, because it's just telling marginalized students like, hey, you don't belong here, even though that I have applied and gotten scholarships because I get good grades and I do well. And same thing with other people who identify marginalized students and in scholarship programs and do well in school. So just solutions that I have that I hope this could be something, because like what's happening at UW-Madison is not isolated to UW-Madison. It's very reflective of all UW schools and predominantly white institutions in general. So one solution is mandatory diversity trainings for all students and staff. Students of color should not be the ones to teach in class why they are important, and to more substantial ethnic studies requirement. Also having more therapists and therapists of color that, or culturally competent therapists, because at least for UW-Madison, the number one victim of mental health issues and depression are women, more specifically women of color, more specifically trans women of color. So that is not okay. And another solution is more affordable housing. So in UW we have homeless students, and not only are they not recognized, instead of more affordable housing being built, they're being torn down and replaced by high rises where the rent starts at $900 a month. And not only that, groceries on campus are ridiculously expensive. To me, it is ridiculous to spend $6 for a package of strawberries. Like, I don't know, like, that's just me. But and also there needs to be zero tolerance policies for offenders of hate and sexual assault crimes. Most of the sexual assault crimes that happen on UW campus happened on Lincoln Street. Lincoln Street, and that is about 25 frat houses to be specific. And basically frat houses on our campus are untouchable because they have so much money and they have so much like alumni network, to the point where young women are scared to walk on that street at night because they know that they might get touched or yelled at, and that is, students should not live with the constant fear of their safety, and that's just the basis. And yeah.
Do you want to share with us, I understand you had a campus meeting with about 400 students recently. Share a little bit about, about how that, not only about the results, because many of the results are things that you've already talked about, but is by way of a template. That was an effective meeting. How was it organized? And give us a little bit of background about who came and how it was organized. And are there existing departments at Madison right now that you've found effective for you?
Yes. So I'm assuming that you're referring to the Moving Forward event, probably?
Yeah.
Okay,
the Moving Forward event.
Yeah. So that event was quite successful, I would say. Over 400 students showed up, and the way that it was organized was that there were I want to believe maybe 30 tables with about 5 different topics. The topics ranging from things like hate and bias, retention and recruitment of faculty of color, mental health services. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but so what would happen is that there was a facilitator at each table, and then anyone else could join a table, and then the facilitator leads the conversation, take notes, and we talked about okay, what is the issue? How do we fix the issue? What does the fixing the issue look like? Stuff like that. And at the end there was a panel it was a panel including me, another student leader, being seen as marginalized and all those things. So yeah, I'm not sure if I.
Yeah, you did. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you very much. And I want to compliment you too. I know you're involved with spoken word, and that's great. It's a production, poetry oriented production, and it does some really interesting things. And Amber Danius comes from UW Parkside, and Amber, would you please introduce yourself for us?
Sure, thank you. I'm honored to be here today. My name is Amber Danius. I'm a junior at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside. I am a part of Zeta Sigma Chi Multicultural Sorority Incorporated. I am a communication major. So today I kind of want to just touch on a little briefly about my story, but I feel as though my story does not reflect everyone else's story around me. I haven't had as many racial slurs as Miriam here, and I feel as though like it's easy for us all to empathize for her, but we can't sympathize until we really deeply understand and can connect with that emotion. And I feel like conversations like this are a great start to help things like that we have like this, like deeper issues. But I feel like what's really going to help is the dialect that you have, that you're not sitting in front of a camera and you don't have a microphone in front of you and you're not uncomfortable. I feel like when you're
Which we'll have at lunch.
We'll have at lunch. I mean, this is like an honor. I think it's a great thing, like that we can explain like this is what's happening on our campus. But I think that the deeper root is that we need to discuss these things in a setting where we feel comfortable to say things that are uncomfortable, to have uncomfortable conversation. I think that we don't have the opportunity to do that as much as we would like to with people that are higher ups or big wigs, if you will. It's easier to communicate amongst each other, and that's where the frustration comes, I think, most of the time, is that we are talking, this is what we want, this is what we need to see, but we don't have the power to do these things. And so meetings like this is where it's like, I'm honored to be able to share a little bit about my campus. So I'll talk a little bit about Parkside. I love my campus. We are a very diverse school. We have an office, it's called OMSA, it's short for Office of Multicultural Student Affairs, where everyone is welcome to come, obviously. Where you can come, feel comfortable, talk, discuss, have little discussions, things like this. So we have that, but something that's really had a great impact on me lately, I didn't even know it would, is one of the classes, the courses I'm enrolled in. It's called Power and Privilege, and there we don't learn so much out of textbooks. It's all of the conversations that we have. It's about discussion, and I think that even being in the class for as many weeks as we've been in, I've seen so much change in people, not like in the classroom entirely. Everyone's comfortable. We have white people, we have Hispanic people, we have black people, we have people from everywhere, and we're all being able to relate to one another. And it's not always good conversation. It's not supposed to be, but that's really what has changed everyone's perspectives. And that's another thing, perspectives. I believe personally that listening to other people's perspectives and trying your hardest to sympathize and understand where they're coming from is what's going to make the change that we want to see. Being able to sit down and just try to really understand, want to understand, is what's going to make the difference. So that would be my recommendation of improvement.
Thank you. What have you found at Parkside that is? You talked a little bit about some of the resources. What are some of the other things at Parkside that you think are effective? And if I'm putting you on a spot,
no, that's
right.
Okay. But really, I think what comes to mind is my Power and Privilege class. We discuss a lot of issues that are happening today. I don't want to say that nothing happens at Parkside. Personally, I haven't had too many bad experiences, but that's only my story, and one story is not gonna reflect everyone. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So being able to hear different stories and like try to understand, like I was saying, you get the opportunity to do that in that class and hear different perspectives. So if anything, I would say Power and Privilege. That course is immensely helpful, I suppose. Yeah.
Thank you, Amber. Anthony is from UW Stout. Anthony.
Hello. Yes, my name is Anthony Hoffman. I am a non-traditional junior at the University of Wisconsin Stout. I'm from Menominee originally, and I'm studying applied social science with a history and politics concentration and with minors in GIS and computer science. My role in the University of Wisconsin Stout is the Director of Diversity for the SSA, the Student Government, and I've been involved with a lot of shared governance regarding diversity issues on campus. Over the past few years at University of Wisconsin Stout, like many other campuses, there have been many overt hate and bias incidents. The campus has taken many steps to address these. There's been, especially this year, there was a couple incidents, including one blackface incident, which was perpetrated at Halloween. The university sent out several letters. The student government created a statement, and we got pushback on both of those from students claiming that they didn't think it was offensive. That, to me, shows a complete lack of empathy and education on the part of many of my peers and fellow students, including some outside of the university in the community. The university has taken steps, student government has taken steps to combat these. There is a petition started by students, including one compatriot who is currently in the audience, to have a administrative position created to address diversity. Stout currently does not have a chief diversity officer like many other University of Wisconsin schools do. We were told that it is not feasible due to the current budget situation. Whether or not that's true, it does show that in this current budget situation, if diversity is not a priority, then it is pushed to the side and not given the resources necessary. Stout does have good resources like the Multicultural Student Services Center. Our LGBTQIA Center is highly nationally regarded, but without a lot of administrative support, we as students feel it's lacking. To the university's credit, after lodging that petition, there's been a lot of dialogue between the chancellor, the provost, the dean of students, and students. We've had several meetings regarding improvements and what can be done to improve the climate on campus. I personally feel those meetings have been effective first steps, and other steps have been taken to improve that. As a student government, we are looking at instituting mandatory diversity training for officers of student organizations, trying to get parties who do not come to the table, like Miriam said, to be forced to have diversity training and have that education that they are missing. Along with that, other educational events from the university are being planned to help students recognize and learn from hate and bias incidents and prevent them from happening in the future.
Thank you, Anthony. Stout had a meeting recently. Would you want to share a little bit about that?
There was a hate and bias incident that occurred in our student library. Is this one you're referring to?
Yeah. And you had a meeting over it.
Yes. Someone had defaced a poster of a black student in our library and wrote a racial slur on it. There was a meeting on campus afterwards, a discussion between several campus administrators and concerned students, where students were encouraged to air grievances, feelings, emotions about that. I felt it was a productive discussion, and I felt it was beneficial for the students who attended. However, that is only part of the piece, because the people who weren't there are people who perpetrated and people who don't think that's wrong. So reaching those students, be it through educational classes, on-campus events, and making sure it's a forefront of an issue being communicated through university communications, I think is a very valuable way to move forward.
Thank you. Now, to our last formal panelist, Natalie, and it's Arriaga?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Natalie Arriaga is from UW-Whitewater. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your experiences?
Yes, of course. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Natalie Arriaga. I'm from UW-Whitewater, as stated. My major is international studies with an emphasis in public diplomacy, and I'm a junior, as well as pursuing a diversity leadership certificate and minor in Spanish. I think accentuating the minor is particularly important for me. My hometown is in Janesville, Wisconsin, in which I grew up from since middle school. So I'll talk a little bit about the experiences that students themselves have been encountering at our university. A lot was initiated by classroom experiences as in regards to representing their ethnicity, their race, by only one person, faculty and staff call on one particular person when it comes to, okay, show me who you are, LGBTQ community, oh, I'm gonna pick on you. Not more so pick, but I'm gonna select you to represent African Americans, Latinos, whether you're from the Middle East, they pick one student. And it's not all professors, but there has been instances such as these. As well as on social media, they target individuals in which they feel as minorities or minority communities are complaining rather than action. This is all on them. They cause these things rather than not an outside source, an outside entity. It's all about us. And as well as black faces in which Caucasian students put on Snapchat in regards to they paint black on their face, and it's not a racial slur. It's not seen as a negative impact on students, but it really is. Sometimes we consider the fact that these aren't at all derogatory, but at times they are. As well as having making fun of your language. I've spoken Spanish a couple times at a university center, and there's times in which you get mimicked in regards to they speak gibberish after you, like, what were you talking about? Da, 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 da. So it's more so like a disrespect to your own language, and that's not only Spanish, it's to all ethnicities. As well as international students, they find themselves, especially with the news that's going on around now, they're as well targeted at the university because thankfully we have a great majority of international students coming to UW-Whitewater. And I also feel as if though we need to kind of emphasize the fact of cultural competency as well as training, as well how my peers said. It's important to do cultural competence training. We have great faculty and staff at our university and resources around the United States in which we can gather scholarly resources. The also bearing item on students is the culture tax, in which you as a student minority are asked to represent in several organizations and several committees. So there's usually one person doing multiple tasks. So if this person is doing on this committee, asked to go to this meeting, asked to go see the chancellor all in 1 week, they also have their academics in which they need to pertain to. They also want a social life. They also need to go back home and see their families so they can get rejuvenated and come back to this university, because we are here for one thing. We are here to achieve an education. And as college students, we feel as though we are not college students. We are still back in high school. We are still enclosed into our one mindset. There's been initiatives like Boxes and Walls from university housing, which is an oppressional experience for other students, and in which they go room to room. How is it like to be an African American, a Latino, a person in the LGBT community, as well as disability community? But students get offended in those in which sometimes they're not portrayed in the most positive light, and they may have negative experiences as well in those. And in order to combat all those experiences, our university has taken upon itself to create the Campus Culture Working Group, and that produced the Campus Action Forum, in which approximately 450 students, faculty, and staff attended one big event, sat down, and conversed about the things that are going wrong around campus, what we need to fix, and it allowed students to voice their opinions. And from that, we produced 4 subgroups. which is diversity learning, community, accountability, and consequences, capturing the student experiences, in which I form a part of one of these subgroups. But at the same time, like as much as I form one, we have to collaborate and build upon each other, and not only work for the betterment of our institution, but also for ourselves. We have learned that we need to empower students so they can also go out into the workforce. So the day when they graduate, they're a cultural competent individual in which they will be able to be successful within their business or within their professional field. Because the world of today is only getting more diverse and more diverse. And many individuals don't realize that, coming from a hometown that may have not had a diverse community. So this is mainly upon faculty, staff, and administration, but as well as students. Us students need to self-advocate for ourselves and even amongst each other, because our student organization collaboration has been improving. Black Student Union, Latinos Unidos, International Student Association, many organizations have brought it upon themselves to educate each other, and more so not always look up to the administration, but hope that these our experiences will help create a change. So, thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you. Now, before we open it up for questions, and remember that we have a listening luncheon to do. I'd like to invite Selena Deer, and while she's sipping her water, Anthony, would you help, please? Selena is going to read a poem for us. She is freelance spoken word. There is not a spoken word club here at UW Green Bay, but she is freelance for that, and she typically likes to do this standing up. So if you would help her, please. No, that isn't on. It will be right here. It'll be right here. Would you help her, please? Thank you.
I don't know who it is.
Oh, Anthony, could you hold it for her? Could you hold? He can hold it for you.
Are you sure? Yeah.
Yes, and you can, and he'll do it. All right, thank you, Selena. And let me introduce Selena. Selena is a freshman here at UW Green Bay. Her major is communications and theater with a minor in political science. Her hometown is New Berlin, Wisconsin. So please, Selena.
Hello, my name is Selena Deer, and I'm a freshman at UWGB. I'm part of several multicultural orgs and student government orgs as well here on campus. I'm here today to speak for just a few of the underrepresented voices of this campus and of other campuses. And today I would like to share a spoken word poem with you. On renewing my driver's license, post Ancestry.com, 52% white and 48% black. There is a fill-in-the-blank section for race instead of a box labeled other for me to check, which surprises me. What should I say that I am, black or white? I laugh